I have been writing for about 17 years, since 2008. And this one is a book of short stories.
David Walliams became one of Britain's most famous entertainers, selling 50 million children's books and making millions of people laugh. But behind his success lay a painful story of mental illness, family secrets, and a lifetime battle with depression that almost cost him everything. Born on August 20th, 1971, in Merton, London, David grew up in a working-class family. His father, Peter, worked for London Transport, earning about $8,000 a year, while his mother, Kathleen, worked in a hospital lab, making $5,200 annually. They lived in a small two-bedroom house in Banstead, Surrey, worth only $18,000 at the time. From the outside, their life seemed normal, but young David was already showing signs of the struggles that would follow him throughout his life. Even as a 4-year-old, David would lock himself in the bathroom for hours, talking in different voices he heard on television. His mother found him having full conversations with imaginary people, each voice completely different. What his parents didn't understand then was that their son was already dealing with sadness and anxiety that would shape his entire future. When David was 7, he joined the Sea Scouts, hoping to fit in with other boys. But within 3 weeks, everything went wrong. Older boys bullied him for sounding too posh and acting dramatic. During a scout camp on Brownsea Island, something terrible happened that would mark the beginning of his lifelong mental health struggles. One night, David was found hanging by his neckerchief from a tree. The scout leaders claimed it was an accident, but David later admitted he had tried to end his life. He was just 7 years old and already felt he didn't want to live anymore. His parents were told he had simply fallen, hiding the truth of what had really happened. This moment made David one of the youngest children in the UK known to have attempted suicide while in the Scouts. By age 10, he had collected 47 comedy albums, spending his entire weekly allowance of $2 at charity shops to buy them. He memorized every word of Monty Python and Rowan Atkinson routines, and his mother once found him at 2 a.m. performing an entire comedy show to his mirror while dressed in her clothes. That same year, doctors gave him imipramine, an antidepressant rarely prescribed to children at that time. David wore headphones for 8 hours a day, trying to drown out the dark thoughts that filled his mind. His school grades dropped dramatically within 6 months, falling from A's to D's as he chose laughter over everything else in his life. In 1982, David started at Reigate Grammar School. But instead of finding acceptance, he faced immediate attacks from other students. Within his first term, he was hospitalized twice, once for a broken nose and once after being locked in a cupboard for hours. His classmates called him Coco, making fun of how he moved and talked. His weight dropped dangerously from 6 stone to just 4 stone 8 pounds in 1 year. His English teacher kept notes about how he would arrive at school with bruises, always claiming he had fallen downstairs. The worst incident came in 1984 when bullies forced him to perform comedy acts in the school toilets while they threw wet toilet paper at him. Despite this treatment, he excelled in drama class, once scoring 98% for a one-man show about loneliness. But the bullying pushed him to another breaking point. At age 12, after being stripped and humiliated during a fake swimming test by the Sea Scouts, David went home and tried to hang himself using his school tie. His mother found him unconscious at 7:43 p.m., and he had been unconscious for about 3 minutes when the ambulance arrived. The hospital kept him under psychiatric watch for 72 hours, with doctors noting the cause. His thoughts were far more serious than expected for a child his age. At 13, David joined the National Youth Theatre, which should have been a positive step forward. He was finally surrounded by other young people who loved acting, and he met Matt Lucas, who would later become his comedy partner. But even this didn't stop his feelings of isolation. David later said he felt like everyone else had friends except him, and he continued pretending to be happy while falling apart inside. When David was 16, he had to join the Actors Union, but someone else already had the name David Williams. He opened a phone book, pointed at a random name, and chose Walliams. This simple moment would change his life forever. His father was upset, feeling like David was throwing away their family name. But for David, it represented a way to escape and become someone new. He later said it wasn't about seeking fame, but about not wanting to be himself anymore. In 1989, David started studying drama at the University of Bristol. That winter, he had a complete breakdown. During the Christmas break, he returned home and overdosed on pills in his childhood bedroom. His mother found him lying still and rushed him to the hospital, crying the entire way. He barely survived and later said his mother's love saved him. This overdose finally made his parents realize how deep his pain truly was. While at Bristol, David joined a comedy group called David Icke and the Orphans of Jesus, which included future stars like Simon Pegg. On stage, he made people laugh, but off stage, he was falling apart. He described feeling like the loneliest person in the world and had to be hospitalized again during this time. He learned to hide everything behind a smile, but in his private diary, he wrote about wanting to step in front of a train. These weren't just passing thoughts. He imagined it in detail and researched it. In 1992, David made his solo comedy debut at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with a show called Games Night. He was 21 years old, and while the show received good reviews, he was barely holding himself together. He had panic attacks every morning and lost 14 pounds from stress during the run. He managed to complete all 18 performances, but the audience had no idea what he was going through behind the scenes. David's comedy career began to take off when he reunited with Matt Lucas in 1995 for a show called Mash and Peas. They filmed 9 episodes with just $8,000 per episode in a small warehouse, creating parodies of old children's shows. One sketch was so controversial, it got banned, but the show became a cult hit and launched their careers properly. In 1999, they created Rock Profile, where they dressed up as pop stars and conducted fake interviews. The show became hugely popular, attracting over 2 million viewers during a 2001 special. However, behind the scenes, David's behavior was becoming unpredictable. He would disappear during filming without warning, leaving Lucas to improvise alone. The real breakthrough came in August 2000 when David and Matt launched Little Britain on BBC Radio 4. The late-night radio show only had 9 episodes, but people couldn't stop talking about it. They created strange, wild characters that made audiences laugh and gasp because the show discussed topics most programs avoided. This tiny radio show became the foundation of what would grow into a $25 million comedy empire. In 2003, Little Britain moved to BBC Three television, and everything exploded. The first TV episode pulled in 1.8 million viewers, a record for the channel. David didn't hold back, dressing in wigs, makeup, and full costumes to create wild, exaggerated characters. One of his most memorable was Emily Howard, a man badly pretending to be a woman in Victorian clothes, saying, "I'm a lady," in a high voice. By 2005, the show was airing on BBC One and attracting 9.5 million viewers per episode, meaning almost 4 out of 10. People watching television at that time were watching Little Britain. The show made $3.5 million from DVD sales alone, turning David into a comedy star. But not all attention was positive. In 2004, he introduced a character named Harvey Pincher, who cried "Biddy Biddy" while pretending to breastfeed from his mother. The character horrified viewers, with parent groups and religious leaders demanding it be removed from the air. Some countries banned it completely, yet it became so popular that they sold Biddy merchandise and made even more money. Between 2005 and 2006, David and Lucas took Little Britain on what became the longest-running UK comedy tour of all time. They performed 201 shows in front of 800,000 people and earned over $25 million. Tickets sold out a year in advance. But while David was making everyone laugh, he was secretly falling apart behind the scenes. On New Year's Day 2003, before the tour began, David had tried to kill himself. He cut his wrists and throat with a kitchen knife. Later that same year, he attempted to hang himself. In his diary, he wrote, "I knew I didn't really want to die. I just didn't want to live." Despite these attempts, he continued performing night after night. His mother once found him after an overdose and cried for weeks. Even while staying at the Priory Clinic for depression treatment, he kept doing the shows. In 2008, Little Britain crossed to America when HBO aired Little Britain USA. The show received 2 Emmy nominations, and David put more of his own sadness into the characters this time. They weren't just funny anymore, they were broken, like he was. However, American viewers didn't appreciate the same kind of humor. Many were upset about the stereotypes and accused the show of racism. The ratings were so low that HBO canceled it after just 6 episodes, despite winning an Emmy in 2007 for Best Comedy. This marked the beginning of David's career troubles. Comedy was changing, and his style no longer fit the times. In 2012, he joined Britain's Got Talent as a judge alongside Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and Alicia Dixon. The show brought in over 11 million viewers per episode, with the 2015 finale watched by 12.75 million people. David became known for his emotional reactions, even pressing the golden buzzer for a school choir that brought him to tears. However, in 2020, microphones accidentally picked up his private comments during auditions. He made crude and sexually inappropriate remarks about contestants, including calling one woman the slightly boring girl you meet in the pub that thinks you want to be with them. When these recordings leaked in 2022, it caused a massive scandal. David apologized immediately, but the damage was irreversible. His decade-long run as a judge from 2012 to 2022 ended in shame. While his television career was struggling, David had found success in a completely different area. In October 2008, he released The Boy in the Dress, his first children's book. It told the story of a boy named Dennis who wears girls' clothes, causing controversy among some parents who claimed it promoted inappropriate ideas. Despite the criticism, the book became a huge hit and started a new chapter in David's career that would eventually sell over 50 million children's books worldwide. David didn't limit himself to writing and performing. In July 2006, he swam across the English Channel, covering 21 miles in 10 hours and 34 minutes. He battled jellyfish, shipwakes, and freezing cold water, pushing through by singing Pet Shop Boys and ABBA songs in his head. He raised almost $1 million for sport relief, but later admitted it wasn't just for charity. He was trying to escape the sadness in his own mind. In 2011, David published Gangster Granny, inspired by the pain of losing his father, Peter, to liver cancer in December 2007. Peter had only been diagnosed 3 months earlier and didn't even drink, making the illness particularly shocking for the family. David stopped everything to be by his father's side, even delaying the U.S. version of Little Britain. The book was about an 11-year-old boy who discovers his grandmother is a jewel thief, but it was really about love, loss, and how family matters more than anything else. That same year, David took on another extreme physical challenge, swimming 140 miles through the polluted River Thames. He became violently sick halfway through, vomiting and developing a fever from swallowing bacteria, but he kept going and completed the swim on September 12, 2011. He raised over $1 million again, later saying he did it to distract himself from depression. The physical pain helped him fight the mental anguish. David's personal life was also falling apart. In May 2010, he married Dutch supermodel Laura Stone at Claridge's Hotel in London after only 8 months of dating. Their son Alfred was born in May 2013, but the marriage was already in trouble. David was battling constant depression and suicidal thoughts, with mood swings so severe that even his psychiatrist warned of the danger. In March 2015, Laura moved out with their son and dog. Their divorce became a bitter court battle over $19 million, with David having earned $16.3 million compared to Laura's $2.6 million. The fight over money and custody dragged on for over 14 months, with the stress making David's mental health even worse. In 2020, while filming Who Do You Think You Are?, David learned something that deeply affected him. His great-grandfather, John George Bowman, had spent 43 years in a mental asylum after suffering shell shock in World War I. He was certified insane in 1919 and lived the rest of his life in a hospital until dying in 1962. This discovery made David realize that mental illness had been in his family for generations, and he saw in his great-grandfather the same pain he had been fighting all his life. The leaked recordings from Britain's Got Talent in 2022 devastated David's career. Fremantle, the Quiche & Company, had just offered him a $1 million contract to return for the 2023 season, but they immediately withdrew it. That same month, his psychiatrist revealed that David was having severe suicidal thoughts again. He couldn't stop the negative thoughts and told people he had lost his ability to be funny. He became afraid to enter TV studios, worried that more recordings might surface. In September 2023, David sued Fremantle in the High Court, claiming they had kept his microphone on all day, even during breaks, and recorded his personal conversations without his knowledge. The lawsuit revealed they had recordings of him discussing his food addiction, his father's death, and the end of his marriage. David said the leak had caused him serious mental harm and massive financial loss. In November 2023, they reached a private settlement, with Fremantle apologizing and promising to treat future performers with more respect. The damage to David's career was enormous. After the story broke in November 2022, he lost around $1.7 million in planned work. A Channel 4 project set in India was cancelled, stage shows based on his children's books were dropped, and his podcast with Matt Lucas was shelved. Nobody wanted to risk working with him, and his reputation as a safe, family-friendly entertainer was destroyed. Despite everything, David's books continued selling well, with total sales crossing 50 million in 2022. Gangster Granny alone sold 1.16 million copies, and his work had been translated into 53 languages. Writing became more than just a job for him. It became therapy and a way of surviving. In December 2024, David reunited with Matt Lucas to work on a new podcast called Making a Scene, planned for release in January 2025. They also met with Netflix to pitch new projects, not Little Britain reboots, but fresh ideas. Lucas promised their humor would be edgy, but nice, not offensive, acknowledging that times had changed. David's story is ultimately one of survival. Throughout his life, he has battled severe depression, made multiple suicide attempts, and faced public scandal. Yet he has also brought joy to millions through his comedy and books. In November 2024, he spoke again about the moment his mother found him unconscious in 1989, describing how it broke her heart and expressing shame for putting her through such pain. He wanted people to understand that mental illness can hide behind a smile, and that family support can make the difference between life and death. Today, David continues writing and slowly rebuilding his career. His journey shows how someone can achieve incredible success while fighting inner demons, and how the support of loved ones can help someone survive even their darkest moments.